Hello and welcome to Nice and Blunt. Thank you for joining me. My name is Adam Riancho, and in today's video, it's kind of a ranking video, but it's also a mock draft. So I'm going to call it my perfect draft. I'm going to go through the first 2 rounds in a 12-team league, and this is going to be how every pick would go if I were drafting for every single team. So I'm going to be using Sleeper, and the format I'm going to be drafting for is a half PPR format. So without further ado, let's get started and let's begin the draft. First overall, it's quite obvious. Christian McCaffrey. Then we've got Dalvin Cook. And I have Alvin Kamara at 3. But if you prefer Derrick Henry, I don't have any problem with that. It's not really that big of a deal. If you'd like to understand why I view these players this way, I'll put the video here, but I think everyone kind of understands already. I won't go into any more detail. Number 5, if you've seen my videos, you know that I like Nick Chubb here. He's basically the safest player outside the top 4, in my opinion, and that hasn't changed in my mind. At 6 is where I start to pivot a little bit, and I've started to warm up to this player. I haven't ranked him this high so far, but now seeing him very in shape and on Hard Knocks with a healthy Dak Prescott, I think that's going to be so important. And so I've warmed up to Zeke, but I don't think I'm gonna put him above Chubb. I just like Nick Chubb too much for in order to do that. Coming in at 7, now that Aaron Rodgers is back, this player has so much scoring potential. He's been almost a lock for 100 yards and a touchdown ever since he's played for Matt LaFleur. It's Aaron Jones, and he is nursing a little bit of a hamstring injury, so it is worth monitoring that situation if he continues to miss a lot of time. I'm not too worried about it at the moment, but it may come back to haunt you. I'm a little bit tentative on Aaron Jones at the moment, but for now, I'm still willing to keep him as high as 7. I am monitoring the situation in Green Bay. Coming in at number 8 is one of my favorite players, and I am a little bit Chargers biased, but I do like Austin Eckler as my running back 8. I think his role in the receiving game is just too secure and too big to rank him any lower than that. His touchdown upside is a little bit of a question mark, but if he were to somehow score double-digit touchdowns this season, he could be a top 3 running back. So that's the potential that he has, and that's why I'm unwilling to rank him any lower than 8. But he has fallen a little bit, in my opinion. His offensive line, Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb's, the 3 of them have elite offensive lines, and that's what keeps them in this second tier of running backs. At number 9, to close out this second tier of running backs, is another player with an amazing offensive line. It's Jonathan Taylor, the sophomore running back. And basically, the only question mark for him is his role in the passing game. There was a little bit of concern with Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson getting foot surgery and maybe missing some time, but it seems like news says that they're going to be expected to play week 1, and so there aren't any concerns for Jonathan Taylor. But even if those 2 players did miss some time, yeah, the offensive line gets a bit of a downgrade. But wouldn't the Colts, just lean more heavily on the run and give him even more volume? So I was never worried about him. I saw him going as far as pick 20 in some mock drafts. I think people were hitting the panic button way too early on Jonathan Taylor. I love his talent, and he could dominate again like he did the second half of last season. At number 10 is where I'm finally willing to pivot from the running back position, but it's not to wide receiver, it's to tight end. I'm taking the cheat code of Travis Kelce, and I'm taking the risk that there's 4 running backs that come off the board, and I don't get one of them, because if that happens, then I get Devontae Adams, and that's just such a crazy positional advantage. The number 1 tight end and the number 1 wide receiver would be crazy. So that's where I'm willing to take Travis Kelce, but no earlier. I almost was willing to take him as early as 8 earlier, but I've changed from that opinion. I think it's a little bit too risky because the running backs that are available on the way back to you are just not as safe as you would feel comfortable with. So at 11, just because there's a chance that Team 12 goes running back, I am going to take Saquon Barkley. And just ensure that I get one of those two, Saquon or Antonio Gibson. Here, I'm going to take Davante Adams, but also, obviously you could take the running back Gibson. That's where I would take him here. If you're at the turn, it's interchangeable. Doesn't really matter. But then coming back around, I would take Tyreek Hill. So I don't really love being at the end of the turn here unless one of these running backs falls to you. It's kind of a little bit disappointing. For me personally, I just love to go running back early. I like to hoard as many as I can, honestly. And just because Cam Akers, has gone down, and I don't really trust some of the names after the top 10, it's a little bit riskier this year at the running back position, which makes it so important that you draft one in the first round, if not the first pick of the second round. So that's why in the second round, if you drafted Travis Kelce, you kind of have to go running back in the second round. And I don't like Joe Mixon this high. I actually prefer Najee Harris. I think they're both going to get the same type of workload, and I just have a little bit more confidence in Najee Harris. He has that first round draft capital, and I think every time a running back gets drafted first overall, they return top 12 value in fantasy. So that's why I like Najee Harris here. And I'm still not willing to take Joe Mixon here. I would continue with the wide receivers and take Diggs. Then I would take, Then I would take Hopkins. And after Hopkins, I would consider pivoting to running back, but I'm going to take who I consider my wide receiver 5, and it's Keenan Allen. His volume with Justin Herbert is just off the charts. He could have more than 200 targets in this 17-game season if he plays all year long. There's just crazy upside, and just the highest floor of any wide receiver outside the top 4, in my opinion. I love Keenan Allen. And if he somehow scores double-digit touchdowns, he will guarantee return top 5 wide receiver value. After him, again, I'm going with volume. It's Calvin Ridley as my wide receiver 6. And you basically just can't go wrong with any of these 6 wide receivers. If you want to change the order a little bit, I guess I'd understand, but I can't imagine changing these top 2. That wouldn't make any sense to me. So here, now that my top 2 tiers of wide receiver is gone, I would pivot back to the running back position just because Joe Mixon is getting so much volume. Last year, Joe Mixon had the 4th most touches on a per-game basis of all running backs. Now, he only played 6 games, so that's kind of a small sample size. But still, the volume is undeniable, and there's nobody else for competition in this backfield. Giovanni Bernard is gone, and I can't let Joe Mixon slide any further than pick 20. So that's why I would go running back if I have this 5th pick and Joe Mixon is still available. Moving on to pick team 4, I feel compelled to go A.J. Brown, but because you already have Derrick Henry, I wouldn't do that, and that's why I would take DK Metcalf. I view DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown basically the same, so they're both super reliable for touchdowns and could have massive games. They're very difficult to tackle. They're almost like identical players in my mind. So the only reason I wouldn't take A.J. Brown here is because you already have a Tennessee player. But Team 2 is going to have their own type of cheat code with Dalvin Cook and Darren Waller. I think the Darren Waller is basically a top 10 wide receiver, and that's why I'm willing to take him. If you consider Kelce another wide receiver, then this would be the 10th receiver off the board, in that case. And I don't think it's safe. I don't think it's wise to let Waller fall back to the team that has Christian McCaffrey, because Christian McCaffrey already has such a big advantage. I just don't think that that's safe. And to round out this video, round out the top 2 rounds, I'm going with Justin Jefferson. And the only reason I didn't take him here is because you already have a Vikings player in Dalvin Cook. So that is my perfect first 2 rounds. Thank you for joining me if you made it to the end of this video. Do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you are notified whenever I am out with new content. It'll come to you. You won't have to look for it. And thank you for watching. Have a great day. Again, my name was Adam Riancho, and this was Nice and Blunt.